Hello and good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Market Snapshot series. Apologies for that. So, welcome to another episode of the Market Snapshot series. My name is Rufus Kamau, market analyst at FX Pesa. So, today we'll be talking about quite a number of things, among them being the key drivers in the current market. And of course, we'll do some technical analysis, try to understand what are the current market structures and how we may gain advantage trading today. So as always, this is an open session. So if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the live comment section. Of course, we do appreciate when you like and share the live. Of course, if you're watching this on X, if you retweet, this is really good for us. So at the same time, I would like to mention a disclaimer that this session is not investment advice. It's not a recommendation to trade, so you should always do your own due diligence. So good morning, Maureen. You can see Paul Carey in the house, FX, Shifter in the house, Matilda. Thank you guys for joining. So let's get things started with the economic calendar. So clearly, today is not such a busy week. Not such a busy day on the economic calendar. So we had early morning news coming in from a speech by US President Donald Trump, where he had new announcements in the markets. We will be covering that. We had the Westpac Consumer Sentiment Survey from Australia coming in at a slight improvement of 0.1% compared to the previous reading where it dropped by negative 0.7%. So all day we have a bank holiday in Japan, so little liquidity is expected from that side. BRC retail sales monitor from the UK showed a huge discrepancy compared to expectation. It was up 2.5%, but also it's a drop from the previous reading, which was 3.1% higher. So confidence, business confidence in Australia improved to 4 compared to the previous reading of negative 2. We had a speech from MPC member Napman. This is literally starting at 11:45 a.m. Then for the rest of the day, we won't be having much. Of course, a key focus will be a speech by Bank of England Governor Bailey. We'll be having a speech from FOMC member Hammack at 4:50 p.m. And the main event of the day will be a speech by Fed Chair Jerome Powell, who will be testifying to the Senate Banking Committee in Washington, D.C. about the semi-annual monetary policy report. So this is expected to be the main market mover. We'll get a couple of more speeches before the day ends from FOMC member Bauman and FOMC member Williams. This will be happening at 11:30 p.m. So fast forward to tomorrow, we'll be having the main event of the week, which will be the inflation report from the US. And of course, we expect that the CPI may have remained stable at 2.9%, though there are already indications that CPI may have moved higher. So banks and other investment managers are expecting a slight uptick to 3.0%. So Jerome Powell will also be testifying for the second consecutive day, in this case to the House Financial Services Committee, still in Washington, about the semi-annual monetary policy. So outside the economic calendar, there is more events happening. So of course, we know that the big news will be happening at 6 p.m. for the day. So let's go through some of these items and try to understand what's moving the markets. So first things first, gold has hit a new all-time high this morning, a high of $2,943 per ounce of gold. And since then, we have seen prices moving further back downwards. So one of the important things to notice is that Chinese insurance companies have joined the gold rush as prices hit record highs. So 10 of China's largest insurance companies began investing in gold on Monday as the government launched a pilot program allowing select insurers to allocate funds to the precious metal. So under the new regulations, these insurers can allocate up to 1% of their assets to gold bullion. According to a research note by Chinese investment bank Minsheng, this could translate into potential investments worth 200 billion yuan or $27.4 billion, raising expectations to further drive global demand for gold. So clearly, besides the People's Bank of China buying gold for the third consecutive month, We are also seeing now insurance companies joining in the rush to buy more gold. And at the same time, we know that there has been a bank run on the UK. A lot of market participants have been buying more and more gold out of the UK, and the Bank of England has been having difficulty meeting some of these increased demand for gold. So the Chinese National Financial Regulatory Administration announced on February 7 that the program aims to help insurers optimize their medium to long-term asset allocations and improve asset liability management. So under the pilot scheme, the designated insurers can invest in gold through spot contracts traded on the Shanghai Gold Exchange, and this includes deferred payments, centralized pricing, inquiry-based transactions, swap contracts, and gold leasing agreements. China has significantly increased its gold reserves since resuming acquisitions in November 2024 after a 6-month pause. Following Donald Trump's victory in the US, according to the Chinese central bank, gold holdings rose from 72.8 million ounces in October to 73.29 million ounces by December, with an estimated 15 metric tons purchased during this period. So this surge has been aligning with a broader global trend of central banks bolstering gold reserves as a hedge against the US dollar, particularly after Trump tariffs. So clearly, we know that there is more factors contributing to the gold rally. We'll be covering that later. Then, on other news, we have more tariff coming in from Trump. So, since he had a speech last night, Trump announced 25% tariffs on all steel and aluminum imports to the US. So, President Donald Trump has ordered 25% import tax on all steel and aluminum entering the US in a major expansion of existing trade barriers. So the tariffs, which will increase the cost of importing the metals into the US, come despite warnings of retaliation from some political leaders in Canada, America's biggest supplier of the metals, as well as other countries. So US businesses dependent on the imports have also raised concerns, but Trump has said his plans will boost domestic production. He warned that there will be no exceptions, saying that he was simplifying the rules, which are set to come into effect on the 4th of March. So this is a big deal, the beginning of making America rich again. So our nation requires steel and aluminum to be made in America, not in foreign lands, he added. So when asked if tariffs could increase prices for consumers, the US president responded, ultimately it will be cheaper. So it's time for our great industries to come back to America. This is the first of many, he added, suggesting that other tariffs could focus on pharmaceuticals and computer chips. So the US is the world's largest importer of steel, counting Canada, Brazil, and Mexico as its top 3 suppliers. So Canada alone accounted for more than 50% of aluminum imported into the US last year. If the tariffs come in force, they're expected to have the most significant impact on Canada. So of course, from a trader's perspective, with Canada being hit this bad, then we expect the Canadian dollar to be weakening as a result of this. So outside of this, there's a list, summary of some of the decisions and updates that came from the Trump speech this morning. So we'll be going through some of these updates. So one, Trump to sign tariffs on steel. This was the main thing on the speech. Then we had Trump to reinstate 25% tariff on steel imports, steel and aluminum to take effect on March 12th. Then we had the product exclusion process was ended completely. So there are laws where some companies would get some product exclusion and they will not be affected by tariffs. But now that the product exclusion process is ended completely, this means that anyone and everyone who is importing aluminum as well as steel in the US will be faced with these tariffs. So also, trying to skim through, the tariffs also affect the finished products as well. So whether it's a finished product or a raw material, it will face the same tariffs. Then Trump to hold meetings on cars, drugs, and chips over the next 4 weeks. So when we say cars, drugs, and chips, we're looking at exporters who sell cars in the US, so they might be facing imminent tariffs. Drugs, we're talking about pharmaceuticals, not the other kind. So pharmaceuticals, any company in the pharmaceutical industry exporting drugs to the US might also be facing some incoming tariffs. And then for chips, we are talking about semiconductors. So companies that manufacture semiconductors and export to the US might also be facing some tariffs on the oncoming days. So also, key thing that was mentioned on the speech is that Trump may consider exempting Australia from tariffs. So Australia dollar is already strengthening this morning on news that it could be exempted from Trump tariffs. So also on the peace in the Middle East, Trump urges Israel to cancel deal if hostages are not returned by Saturday. So he's adding more pressure between Gaza and Israel to make sure that there is peace between the two countries and, of course, within the region. So outside of that, spot gold reaches record high as Trump implements tariffs on steel and aluminum. Then also Trump defended Elon Musk, who has been facing a lot of fire from Democrats. He said that Elon Musk has boundaries and that he reports to him. So outside of that, we haven't had any other major news this morning. So Trump has been the main news in the markets this morning. So trying to see if there's anything new. So, of course, there is the issue of Germany's Chancellor Scholz. She basically threatened and said that the EU will respond together against Trump trade tariffs. So there has been fears of the US implementing tariffs on the Eurozone. And if this happens, Eurozone is threatening to act together to impose corresponding tariffs against the US. So for Eurozone President von der Leyen, they will trigger firm and proportionate countermeasures if the US decides to impose tariffs on the Eurozone. So outside of that, we have also seen a very strong performance from European equity indices, with the German stock market index being one of the top performers and about to hit a new all-time high this morning. If you look at Yahoo Finance, there's nothing but news of Trump, who ordered 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum on the trade war. We also have an update from BYD. So BYD is currently the top electric vehicle manufacturer in China, has already overtaken Tesla. And now they got into a new EV price war with free smart driving system. So we know that companies that have been providing smart driving systems, such as Tesla, have been doing it for a fee, but now they are providing it free of charge, basically giving them a competitive advantage. So it's big news in the EV industry, and we could be seeing more activity in the industry and the stocks today. So BYD opened a new front in China's electric vehicle price war, adding advanced driver assistance features across most of its lineup for no extra cost and sending its shares to a record. So at a highly anticipated event on Monday morning in Shenzhen, BYD said it will make its God Eye driver assistance system standard in vehicles priced from 100,000 yuan, that's about $13,700 per vehicle, and include it in several lower cost models such as the popular Sijol hatchback. So while assisted driving is one of the core battlegrounds for automakers in China, vehicles with similar features from rivals typically sell for more than 150,000 yuan. This is like 50% higher, and some manufacturers charge additional fees to have the tech enabled. Tesla, which is waiting for approval from Beijing to roll out trials of features it markets as a full self-driving or FSD, but which require constant supervision, charges $99 a month in the US. So this is basically a non-price cut, uh, price cut disguided as a smart feature update on almost all BYD branded vehicles, independent China autos analyst Lei Xin said. So BYD shares jumped 4.5% to a record high at the start of Hong Kong trading Tuesday, lifting its market value to $132 billion, more than Ford Motors, General Motors, and Stellantis NV combined. So the gain built on a 21% rally last week in anticipation of Monday's event. So outside of that, there's more stocks to watch at the market open today. One of them is Supermicro Computer, which basically ended the day yesterday up 17.56%, and now year to date it's up 39.93%. So it's a stock that has gained demand, especially after their servers got into high demand last year and this year, leading to this top performance since the year started. So for a stock that is up 39%, and we are just on the 11th day of February, it basically deserves some focus, especially given the performance since the year started. Of course, you can see that the quarterly revenue growth has been astronomical, so clearly showing that the company is really doing well. So also to notice is Palantir, which was up 5% yesterday, and year to date, it's currently up 54%. So clearly, it's one of the top performing stocks in the US this year. And clearly, their revenue has been slowly increasing as well as their profitability. So we should be expecting to see more performance from the stock. So, sorry, I wasn't sharing the Palantir page. So this is Palantir, clearly up 54%, and yesterday being up 5%. So trying to see if there's any highlight that I may have missed. So on the Forex front, there's quite a number of things happening. So this morning we haven't had much volatility, but New Zealand dollar and Australian dollar have been the better performance since the day started, with the Canadian dollar and the UK pound being the weakest. So from here, if you look at the weekly performance, the Australian dollar is still pretty strong, 0.34% gain. And this is in correlation with gold. So whenever you see a very strong performance in gold, we also expect to see some positives in Australian dollar. The UK pound, yen, and Swiss franc have been the major losers for the week. And if you look at the year-to-date performance, that is since the year started, the Japanese yen has gained 3.52% against the dollar. Australian dollar is up 1.54%, and New Zealand dollar 1.07%. Whereas the biggest losers have been the UK pound down 1.32% and the euro down 0.46%. Swiss franc also down 0.43% to the US dollar. So that being said, I believe it's time we jump straight into some technical analysis and try to understand where the markets might be headed next. All right. So going into the MT5 or the MetaTrader 5 reading application. So I'm hoping that everyone can see this. So the biggest news of the day is that gold was able to hit a new all-time high of 29.43. So I remember yesterday when we were doing the analysis, it was trading around 28.87, broke above this area here and kept going up for the remainder of the day. Then today, as soon as the market opened, there was a very strong rally that got us to 29.43. So comparing between yesterday when we were doing the session and today, we have seen a 1.92 percent gain in gold, or basically 554 pips gain, before the big pullback that happened immediately after. But then gold has really struggled to move higher, and now what we are seeing here if you look at the 5 minutes chart, you'll notice that it's really struggling to go below this area here, and there's a likelihood we could be seeing a bounce from this area here. So notice that this level is seemingly looking to like support area here, and there's a good likelihood that gold prices could be bouncing from this area. So as we mentioned, for gold, we continue following the trend, and any form of pullback is taken as a positive area to be looking for value purchase. In this case, whenever there's a big drop in gold, since we know that the long-term trend is extremely bullish, then we basically take advantage by buying the lows and selling the highs. So in this case, there is a good likelihood that this could be the bouncing point. And once we see gold bouncing from this area, there is a good chance we could be seeing gold rallying to the previous high and potentially going for the 3,000 price action level. So the target for gold long term is $3,000 per ounce of gold. But for now, getting these pullbacks, they create opportunities to buy at a lower price, which has been a key theme for gold traders since the year started. So notice how we had a big drop here, gold bounced, a drop, a very strong rally. We had this range here. Eventually, we broke it. There was this pullback. Then we had a nice bounce. So any form of pullback is taken positively, and we look forward to identifying opportunities in these pullbacks. So while this hasn't bounced yet, there's also that likelihood that we could see let's say, a quick rush to this area here around 28.87 before gold bounces back up again. This is still a possibility, but for now, given the strong demand, it could just happen outright and we see price moving higher. So we continue observing the price to see if the opportunity will play out right from this level. So outside of that, Brent has really surprised the market with a strong rally for the last 2 days. So after bottoming around $73.91 per barrel, we had a slight rally on Friday. Then on Monday, price kept pushing higher, and today being Tuesday, we are even seeing much higher prices. So the idea, as we mentioned, is to still look for short selling positions because Trump is literally driving the markets lower. And if you can see, since Trump got inaugurated, all we have been seeing is a very strong bearish momentum on oil prices. So now that we are seeing this is almost the third consecutive day where we are seeing oil prices rising, then we could be seeing eventually sellers coming back, and that would present an opportunity to go short. So we haven't seen any strong evidence of sellers coming back, but the more the price goes higher, the higher the likelihood that that will be playing out. So now we are looking at a high that we last saw on the 4th of February. And if we break here, then we could be looking at another high that we saw on the 3rd of February. And if we get to this area, then perhaps we should be getting the opportunity to go short either on this area or on this other area here. So we remain patient and wait for that opportunity to present itself. As always, we know that the overall trend has been bearish, and Trump is doing everything in his power to make sure that there is increased oil production. And with increased oil production, we expect prices to be moving further back downwards. So these might as well be the top for oil prices, and we could be seeing price even dropping from here. So it's a wait and see kind of a scenario to see if price will reject that area. So US equities are not performing particularly well this morning, especially after Trump imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum products as well as raw materials. So in this case, we have seen a dismal performance since the market opened. So we could be seeing that being the key theme for the day, and the market slightly pulling back downwards. So for the Nasdaq 100 index, of course, we haven't had much of a volatility. So I would say that this is not the usual volatility that we see on the Nasdaq, but then we continue to observe to see if there will be an eventual break with momentum. So US 30 or the Dow Jones, which represents the industrial sector, also hasn't had much of a volatility since the market closed last night. So we'll be observing to see if there's a break with more likelihood that the break happens on the bearish side. So notice also for the Russell, it has been having a dismal performance since the market opened. And for the SP 500, it's still the same thing. We haven't had much of a volatility, but as we approach this evening, we could be seeing some volatility coming into the markets. So let's continue observing this range and trade the direction of the break. As for Bitcoin, we mentioned yesterday that we expect our price to continue recovering. So after we got into this new multi-week low of $94,677 per Bitcoin, clearly there was a nice bounce yesterday, and today there seems to be a slow push. So we could be seeing more recovery happening in Bitcoin for the day. And of course, we had mentioned yesterday that the target here is more likely around $100,000 per Bitcoin. So the dollar index has been pretty weak. Notice the big sell-off here after Trump reversed tariffs on Canada and Mexico. But then since then, we have seen the dollar rebounding again and attempting to move higher. And if you look at the price action since the market opened this morning, there has been an attempt to move higher and then a pullback retesting this area here. So nothing much of a change. We are still close to the opening price for the day. And it seems more likely that the bears are in control. So looking at the major pairs, for instance, if you look at Euro USD, we still expect the euro to continue weakening to the dollar. And now that Trump is threatening to impose tariffs on the EU, that would likely have a negative impact on the euro, and we could be seeing the market retesting the previous low, which was at 1.021. So for pound, it has already broken the previous level of support. So if you look at the lowest price that we saw yesterday at the market open, it was here, similar to the low of last week. And now we are seeing more likelihood of the pound continuing to lose ground to the dollar. So you might as well be looking for short selling positions on the pound USD. Then for AUD USD, as mentioned, Trump is suggesting potential blind eye on Australia. He doesn't want to implement sanctions on Australia, which was likely bullish for the Australian dollar. And now we are seeing the Australian dollar making some good recovery from the Asian session. Notice how the market had started moving downwards, but then since Trump comments, we are seeing the Australian dollar making a very strong rally. And given the strong performance in gold, we could be seeing the Australian dollar testing the 0.63 price level. Then we have the yen, which has been one pretty strong currency. So now, given that the dollar is weakening, then our theory, our idea of trading yesterday was that once the USD yen gets to this area, we start looking for signs that sellers are coming back and look for short selling positions. So of course, the trade didn't play out as expected. We didn't get to 150.955. So this was our bottom yesterday in the New York session. Then now we are seeing sellers coming right back in, especially on a public holiday in Japan, which basically raises the likelihood of the yen gaining all the way down to 150.955. So the Japan's stock market index had a very strong bounce yesterday. Today it seems to be pulling back downwards, but as we know, the story of the last 10 weeks has been the market trading in a range. So this has been the range, and now it seems more likely that the market is attempting to move further back downwards. So in this case, we could be seeing the market retesting the previous low around 38,378 yen. Then we have the dollar trading against the Swiss franc. Clearly, it has been a very strong performance. So yesterday we talked about the market pulling back and then making a strong rally here. So it played out as expected, though we didn't quite get to the target. So the target was the previous high. So this is something we have been attempting to hit this morning. And there's a good chance that the market will eventually break this resistance and move higher as the dollar continues being strong. So in this case, after the big sell-off, the dollar is recovering well against the Swiss franc, and we expect the market to keep pushing higher. So for New Zealand USD, there was a nice sell-off here. So yesterday we expected that the market would get to this area and then drop back downwards. So it played out as expected, and now we are seeing a strong bounce. And of course, now the new target remains yesterday's high. so slightly lower than the area we had identified. So we don't expect much of a volatility, but at least the market retesting 0.56637. So now we move on to USD CAD. Clearly, you can see that the dollar really lost a lot of gains from the Canadian dollar, and since then the market has been moving sideways. So using a much smaller time frame, in this case the 15 minutes chart, then we know that we can always track the sideways momentum. In this case, we track it using the following two trend lines, and then we wait for the eventual breakout. So the breakout will happen either way. We don't know when or what direction it will take. We just know that at this period, it's not looking at like the best market to be trading. The overall price action is following this path. So if we remove this line, then it becomes pretty clear. So it's more of a market that has a flagpole. In this case, this could be our flagpole, and this is the flag. So it means it's an inverted flag, and at some point we'll be waiting to see a breakout. So far, there doesn't seem to be some good momentum. However, if the dollar remains strong for the day, then we could be seeing a strong bounce from this area and perhaps even breaking this trend line, but that has not happened yet. So as for European equity indices, we are looking at new all-time highs. For the French stock market index, we had a breakout, retest, and continuation of this from this area here, which was previous resistance, but now we are into new territory. So the French stock market is trading towards a new all-time high. So in this case, even if you monitor the smallest of price action movements, then this would likely give you an idea of what to go for. And we haven't seen a breakout yet, so we continue monitoring this area. So the Euro 50 cash index also breaking into a new all-time high. This is how the entire chart looks like. So from the 15 minutes chart, this is how it looks like. And clearly, since this morning's price action, we would say that the market is currently attempting to go for that eventual breakout. So you can see the attempts happening here and the amount of volatility we are seeing, price jumping, basically indicating more likelihood of an extension of the rally. So the French stock market index here, we are seeing a very strong bullish momentum after the gap that we had last week on Monday. So clearly, the market is attempting to break this resistance, which served as the previous all-time high. So here, there's that likelihood that eventually the market breaks and forms a new high. So if you observe the current price action, it's more indicative of a break than a reversal. So this indicates that we will likely see a new all-time high. So we could be looking for positions around there. Then my personal favorite is the German stock market index. So on the 4-hour chart and 1-hour chart, we are currently seeing a very strong break here. So the break is happening, and if you use a small time frame such as the 50 minutes chart, then we all know this pattern. So this is basically referred to as the cap and handle continuation pattern. So if you think of these as the cap and then this as the handle, then the market is now breaking the resistance, and we should be only expecting to see further upside momentum. So on the daily time frame, this is how it looks like. So a very, very strong bull market, very difficult to bet against. So if there was a trade you're looking for the day, then it should be the German stock market index, DE40, and it's making some big moves this morning. So also, one last asset we'll be checking is the silver price action level. Trying to find the silver. Yes, so we have silver here, which has been trending backwards. So while gold is forming new all-time highs, silver has been oscillating between these levels. And now we are looking at a potential bounce from the lower trend line. So perhaps once the price gets here, then we could be looking at a stronger bounce and perhaps market moving into a newer high compared to last week's high. So we continue monitoring silver to see if this will play out. So it will be a pretty interesting idea if this was to play out and you manage to capture it perfectly. So that's it for the day. I'll be checking the comment section here. So a very good question from Thomas. What does the Q1 market outlook mean and its relevance? So FX Pesa is a global company. It's a brand owned by EGM Securities, which is owned by a company called Equity Group. So with Equity Group, we have different branches across different countries, from South America to Asia to UK to Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and so on. So in different countries, we have different various market analysts with a lot of experience. So every quarter we come together, we look at different markets, we look at different outlooks. So for instance, I will cover China this time, another person will cover England, another one will cover stocks, another one will cover a different part of the market. And then we combine all this research into one document that we call the Q1 market outlook. So these will cover the expectation of the market performance from the month of January through to March. And in most cases, some of our predictions are very strong and they can help you understand what's happening in the markets. So its relevance is that you will understand the markets you are trading. You will have much deeper insights from a wide range of market analysts. And this basically gives you an advantage compared to a person who have not seen the market outlook. So the outlook is available on our socials. So if you go to Twitter, if you go to Instagram, you click the link on bio that is from the FX Pesa handles, then you get access to the market outlook. So kindly check it out. So there's a question to check on USD. We already checked. We haven't checked on Euro Yen. Morning, Stephen Gugi. So good comment here. We'll check on the Novice to Pro series. I know the episodes start from the bottom up rather than from top down. So when you click the Novice to Pro series, which is a course that I developed and it's available on the FX Pesa YouTube channel, it basically helps you, especially if you're a beginner, to start from what is Forex, what is trading, through to a level where you'll be confident and understand what you're doing in the markets. And with practice, you become a pro level trader. So in this case, for those who are new, you should know that it's available, it's free of charge, and it's on FX Pesa YouTube channel. So there was a request on gold. We checked on Brent oil, which is 99% correlated with WTI or US oil. So when we do an analysis on one, we normally don't go for the second one because it's literally almost the same thing. So while there might be a difference in prices, the movements are almost exactly the same. So we checked gold. That was the first item we checked on the technical analysis. There's several requests to check on Euro Yen, CAD Yen, Pound Yen. I wonder why. Pound USD we already covered. So a good question. What's some of the news that one would be following to be able to track the progress of DAX and some of the sources for the same? So the DAX is the German stock market index. So currently it tracks the performance of the 40 biggest companies in Germany. So you want to be interested in how those 40 companies are weighted or how much weight each company has in the index. So if you look at the top 10 companies or top 5 companies in the index, then that will give you the probable or possible expectation for the company. So an index that tracks the performance of companies, this means that the companies with the highest weight will give you the likely direction of the stock market index. So in terms of focusing on the news, kindly look at the top companies in the DAX 40 and the ones with the highest weight. So lastly, it's the request I'm seeing on the yen pairs. Wonder what kind of formations you guys are seeing. Personally, I haven't checked any other yen pair besides USD yen, which we discussed here, and we're expecting a drop here. So for pound yen, notice that we had this analysis yesterday that we should be expecting price to drop further back downwards towards the previous low. So it's already playing out. And today is a bank holiday in Japan. but the yen keeps on strengthening. So with the pound being one of the weakest currencies in the market right now, then it makes more sense to be looking for short selling positions, especially after we broke below the support area here, which implies that the market might be headed much lower than the current price action level. So overall, we expect this bearish momentum to continue as the Bank of Japan has promised to continue hiking interest rates over the year, whereas other central banks are considering cutting rates. The Bank of Japan has been hiking rates. So for the other yen pairs, I wonder what's happening. I don't know if there's anyone who asked about AUD. So the Australian dollar, as we mentioned, after Trump basically promised to be lenient on Australia, we could be seeing the Australian dollar taking a fight against the yen. But then there are other currencies that are more likely to be losing more against the yen. So for Euro yen, you can see it's more of a sideways momentum. We haven't had activity since this morning. I wouldn't call this activity, but overall the trend is still bearish. So we should be looking for opportunities to short sell. And for Euro yen, I would be more patient and wait for more evidence that sellers are coming back right in the markets. So that's it for the day. Thank you very much, everyone. Remember to check out the Bullish Banter podcast, which is available on all podcast platforms, as well as the FX Pesa YouTube channel. Check out the Novice to Pro series. It's also available on YouTube, as well as all other podcast platforms. And if you are just beginning your trading journey, make sure to register for a free trading account. It's available. The links are available on the description below. And if you're watching this on X, then the link is available from the FX Pesa handle. So go to the FX Pesa handle and then click on the bio. So the link in there will give you a link to register for a trading account. Then you begin your journey, start learning bit by bit, practicing every day, and eventually once you get the skill, then you go into live trading. So that's it for the day. Thank you for joining this session. I appreciate you liking, subscribing to the channel, sharing, retweeting. All that is really positive for us. And I appreciate you guys for taking your time. For the guys who dropped some really nice comments, I appreciate you and enjoy the rest of your trading day.